For the first 13 years of my life, the video game systems I wanted, whether I would have them or not, was completely dependent on whether my parents were willing to buy it at one point or another. We had the NES and PS1. Those were the two main consoles I would play before heading off to preschool. Like I get to play the retro arcade compilations my dad would buy for us, and the OG Super Mario Brothers game. Those games were fun, and I can actually see the PS1 games from where I'm sitting right now. Huh, I just remembered I also have the PS3 over there that I could play them, but I don't feel inclined to set it up at the moment. Comment down below if you'd like to see me share the arcade games of my youth and my parents' youth, because these were the games that my dad grew up with. I'm only 28 years old, so most of those games over there are older than me. But getting back on topic, all the hardware that I all the gaming hardware that I'd played up to that point, the GameCube that I got for my 10th birthday, the Wii that we got for the family, the PS2 that we also got for the family at one point, and then the GBA and the various Nintendo DS Lites, the one or two that we had up to that point. I had I had to share with my siblings in addition to being because they were bought by my parents, not because as I particularly wanted to share a handheld system with the enhanced customization they had by that point. Yeah, up to 2010, I that was just the way it was. And then the 3DS was revealed, and I really wanted one, and I wanted to make sure that I was a day one adopter, and then I had it to myself. And suffice it to say, I decided when I turned 14 that I was going to make that a reality. So I'd saved up what money I could, and I was able to put down a trade-in deposit at GameStop on the day that the pre-orders went live. I was able to pre-order one 3DS and four games. This was actually no way. I tried jumping ahead. So the four games that I pre-ordered were Super Street Fighter 4 3D, Steel Diver, Pilot Wings Resort, and Lego Star Wars 3: The Clone Wars. What I remember most about that day is one of the guys working at GameStop that night laughed at me. Looking back on it, I'm pretty sure it wasn't at me, but at the time I kind of internalized that that he was laughing at me, maybe because I was 14 years old and putting down trade-in deposits for a $250 handheld console and four $40 games. I don't know why I thought that he was laughing at me. Looking back on it as four, 14 years later as a rational adult, I don't think he was laughing at me, but at the time I took it to heart. But instead of being a 14-year-old Karen or sticking my mom on him and making my mom into a Karen, I decided to just prove that laughing guy wrong. I was gonna get my first ever or video game console of any kind with my own money and 4 games on top of that at the age of 14. So I buckled down and I put aside everything I could earn, from earning money until 14 years ago today, where after negotiating with my mom to go to the early morning mass, that would be the 7:30 one specifically because that's the earliest that they went at the time. I negotiated with her to go to that one with me so that we could go straight to GameStop so that I could pick it up at right at open because they did an early opening for that. At which, I gotta keep an eye on whether they're gonna do that with the Switch too. I mean, it might be best to just order it for delivery on Amazon as soon as possible, and then I'm gonna just make sure that I'm not at the instant gratification job that day, and maybe the next, depending on whether the cost allows us within the budget I have allows me to afford at least 1 game. All I'm gonna say is if it's more than $400 before tax instead of just $400 or $399.99 technically. So here in Massachusetts, it would be $425 even. If it costs more than that, like if they go for $450 or heck, and even $500, I am not going to be able to get a Switch 2 game, at least within the budget that I have for it at the moment. We'll circle back to that later, but rewinding back to 2011, 14 years ago today. Hey, I'm planning to drop this on March 27th, 2025. That is 14 years to the day that I got the original 3DS. I waited out there in I don't remember it being that cold, but I waited out there in whatever weather, or it wasn't the crazy camping out overnight thing that people did back in the day, but it was nice to stand out there for the half hour or so I had to because we got there by 8:30. They opened at 9. There weren't a lot of other people there, probably because, well, it was Sunday and the 3DS was a little overpriced at the time, which is why they cut it by $80 literally 3.5 months later. But I'm not complaining. I got the Nintendo Ambassador games, so I'll call that a win. Anyway, the store opened. I paid the difference from my pre-order deposits 'cause I only deposited the bare minimum, $50 for the system and then $5 for each game. So before tax, that would have been $340 that I had to pay. Plus, no wait, I think I put down the entirety of the games that I got for it. What does it matter? I picked up my pre-order. I proved that GameStop clerk wrong. I got because at the age of 14, I bought my first ever gaming console of any kind with my own money. Or I should say it was the first ever one that I bought with my own money, not that it was my first ever gaming console ever. But I got but I bought it. I got the 4 games, and I'll admit I kind of after I exited the store slowly after or paying for my stuff because I had been taught by that point to not run out of a run outside of a store because that would look kind of sus. But I got my 3DS, I got my 4 games. And I ran up and down the sidewalk, exclaiming, "I got the 3DS! I got the 3DS!" I brought it home that day, charged it up, tested out the new charging cradle, which is kind of a precursor for wireless charging slash MagSafe, which I think was thought was really cool at the time. And since well, my parents couldn't really not let me spend the whole day with it because it was a handheld, so they didn't exactly have authority over it like they would with the TV. So I got to play the 4 games that I got. I got to try out the glasses free 3D effect, which I thought was really cool at the time. What I really enjoyed though was the augmented reality with the AR cards and the different things you could do with that. And I also liked the 3D camera and taking pictures in 3D. A lot of which, pretty much all of which I've still actually got. I can't look at them in 3D obviously because I don't have a because I eventually traded that 3DS in 2018 along with the new 3DS XL, which I think I'll reminisce on those in just a bit. But the original 3DS, felt so good to have saved up for it and bought it with my own money and to get to be able to enjoy all of it day one. Yeah, yeah, over the next few years. So for the rest of 8th grade slash middle school, and then all throughout high school, most of high school, I got so much playtime out of that 3DS. I brought it to so many different places where I would get to pass the time and acquire so many street pass tags. Yeah, I brought it to school, carried it around in my pocket to track my steps, and then and and not and also walked to and from home with it. In the before school, like when we were all waiting outside or in the gymnasium if it was raining. I remember the day after that, I brought it to the school and showed it off to some people. I got to show off the 3D effect and such. and yet I was somehow responsible enough to not take it out during class and just to and wait until after school. Yeah, pre- I was I had pretty good self-control with that kind of stuff compared to most kids my age at the time with when it came to their phones and such. Seriously, I'm kind of like Bella from Twilight when she thought that her enhanced vampire thing was really good self-control. But anyway, I would enjoy taking 3D photos of pretty much everything I could. Now, I'd already been doing that with my DSi, but the 3D effect, that was fun. Yeah, I'd get home and I'd get in playtime with my Wii before I would get cut off by my parents. Screen time regulations and all that are more of a precursor because this was before everyone was talking about screen time and its effects. I remember my mom actually tried convincing me not to use the 3D effect because of apparently it would not be great for younger eyes. That's why it said ages 7 and up for the 3D effect. That's why I said I had to disable it in the parental controls for ages 6 and under, but I refuse. I decided to enjoy it, and I'm pretty sure I'd still have glasses right now if I an alternate timeline where I never use the 3D effect on that under any circumstances because of genetics. Anyway, I brought that 3DS everywhere I went, and I was very responsible with never losing it because I was pretty responsible. Not to mention very careful because I had saved up for that. I bought it, I owned the system, and it was mine, and it would not be easy to replace if I did lose it. So I kept it close to me, tracking my steps and connecting with other 3DS users through Street Pass as I on this one trip down to the Cape, various family events we were invited to. I don't think I brought it to the one Red Sox game I went to that year. This was the July after it came out. And I remember all through high school, I carried it around. I got more games as well. It was the second half of freshman year where I started buying a game every week and essentially discarding it and not really coming back to it after that 1 week. Now that was a waste of money. Yeah, I would yeah, I would enjoy all the new games. Ocarina of Time 3D, that was the one I was really looking forward to. I remember it came out the day of my cousin's first communion. No, not first communion, christening, and the second of the three youngest as first cousins of mine. Yeah, on the day of the christening, I was able to pick up my copy of the game, and I had to keep a hold of it and not play my 3DS until after the ceremony. And then when we got to the house where we held where they held the reception, I'll admit I pretty much I just sat down in an armchair there and started playing Ocarina of Time 3D there because I was really excited. I showed it off to other people. I wasn't completely antisocial with it. Even back then, I was trying to use handheld electronics like that to enhance social interactions, not sabotage them. There's a good video topic right there. So I went. Oh, as soon as my dad was leaving early, I'll admit I went with him after saying goodbye to everyone because I really wanted to enjoy Ocarina of Time 3D. I remember I played like 8 hours that day across the reception, the little reception, and then getting home and just being able to enjoy my game. Over the years, I enjoyed more with that, and then the new 3DS XL with Majora's Mask 3D came out, and I pre-ordered and got that one, which weirdly ended up being $50 cheaper than the original system at launch, and that that was just more good times with the 3D effect and such. Oh yeah, all that gaming time was nice. I generally don't regret it, though looking back, I could have enhanced it with more actual socialization around it. Well, I had my friends. I had the other one who got his day one like me. Yeah, he was one of the only two members of the first four members of my Henriotti who ever had a 3DS of his own. The backwards compatibility on the DS was all for the DS games was also nice. So I'm really hoping that the Switch 2 is able to live up to that. I don't want to set my expectations too high. But the point of this whole thing is it felt great to be able to just get my own system and pay for it with my very own money. Because at 14, that just felt really great. Compare that to later on with the at 18 and with getting the new 3DS XL with that was still cool in its own way. I'm trying to decide if it was any more or less impactful. Nobody laughed at me when I went in to pre-order it. I guess because I was 18 by then. No, I think I was 17 when they announced it and then put it up for pre-order, and then I was 18 when it came out, Friday, February 13th, 2015. Yeah, I took the original 3DS as to all the places I mentioned earlier, plus Florida when I went there in 2013, came to grandparents' and Disney World. I got a lot of Street Pass tags in Disney World. I take it to all I took my 3DS to all the movies that I went to over the years, and to picking up the tickets the day before. Yeah, it was a fun thing to do. And between that and the new 3DS XL, and then eventually the new 2DS XL, because the B button on my new 3DS XL was starting to act a little iffy. I'm actually having a similar problem with the R button on my right Joy-Con, and Joy-Con drift on the left one. So that's the only reason I actually bought a new 2DS XL, and that one still didn't actually felt less impactful compared to when I bought the original and then the new 3DS XL. Because at that point, it was just to fix a hardware issue in the quickest way possible. It felt really soulless compared to them. And it may have also had something to do with the fact that it cost less and it wasn't as much of a ordeal to save up for to or by that point. The Switch was way more getting the Switch was pretty exciting though. I'm really looking forward to the Switch too. I guess what I'm trying to say here is the effort of saving up for and paying off the 3DS was really impactful to me at the age of 14. If only I'd been able to apply that to more serious things than just a game console, but it felt good to have it all to myself and know that I paid for it with my own money. So I'm going to leave it here for the video. Comment down below what you think about all this, whether you think I went on for way too long at almost half an hour the f- about the good feeling I got from buying a video game console when I was 14, and then the other two iterations and the comparative and how I felt in comparison. Give this video a like, subscribe for daily videos, and I will see you soon.